St. Tammany Parish is not the most likely place for a rebellion against the oil and gas industry in Louisiana to erupt. Situated across Lake Pontchartrain from New Orleans, over the past 50 years, St. Tammany has transformed from a rural parish with a small population to a bedroom community for the Crescent City, and now into a fast-growing community that charts its own course. It's a parish of rebels and independent thinkers, as well as a bastion of conservative politics in Louisiana. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the parish's clean air and abundant artesian springs earned it a reputation as a place where people could go to restore their health, regardless of the malady. Everything from tuberculosis to yellow fever and mental fatigue could be eased, if not cured, by spending time in St. Tammany. St. Tammany was part of the West Florida Republic, which was formed in 1810 after people in what are now Louisiana's Florida parishes rebelled against Spanish rule. The Republic only lasted 74 days, but the spirit of that rebellion has revealed itself from time to time since then. The latest eruption came in April of 2014, when Helis Oil announced that it intended to bring fracking into St. Tammany Parish. It was an attempt to cash in on some of the estimated 7 billion barrels of oil trapped in the Tusdaloosa Marine Shale. The proposed drilling site is located off a 2-lane state highway about a mile from Lakeshore High School. Upscale residential developments sit about 2 miles from the proposed drilling site. The location itself is situated in wetlands. But the central problem is that the Southern Hills Aquifer System, the sole source of drinking water for everyone in 10 southeast Louisiana parishes and most of southern Mississippi, sits between the Tuscaloosa Marine Shale and the land we walk on. Every well drilled in the eastern end of the Tuscaloosa Marine Shale must pierce that sole source of drinking water for the 1 million people in southeast Louisiana who rely on it. St. Tammany erupted. At a fracking informational meeting in the Abita Springs Town Hall moderated by the St. Tammany League of Women Voters on May 1st, more than 600 people turned out. Down the road that same evening, 300 people turned out for a St. Tammany Parish Council meeting where a decision to hire attorneys to challenge the proposed drilling was discussed. Louisiana oil and gas industry flacks, accustomed to operating within their bubble of fawning supporters, were taken aback by the hostile reception their presentation received in Abita Springs.
Fracturing fluid that we're talking about can all be found underneath your kitchen sink.
Okay, quiet, please. All right, let's let them answer questions. Okay, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Well, obviously we're not talking about the jar of a particular chemical, but if you look at the different cleaners and degreasers and you use to take care of your house and clean your dishes or clean your yard or fill lots or whatever.
Please don't shout the questions out. People can't hear them.
The citizens of St. Tammany were not buying what the oil and gas industry was selling. Scott Eustace with the Gulf Restoration Network described the stakes.
There are economic reasons for drilling, but it's about what we're going to lose here in St. Tammany Parish. What we have here in Louisiana is the last place that we haven't drilled into nothing. If you, I had a slide. I'm from New Orleans. I'm not from St. Tammany Parish. I'm born and raised down there, and family in the oil and gas industry. And we watched it go. We watched ourselves become more vulnerable. We watched the environments we used to fish in just disappear. And now we come to St. Tammany Parish when we go fishing. When we went to swim in rivers. This is the parish that there's very little of that left across Louisiana. This is a map of all of the history of wells across Louisiana. And you can see where the gaps are. This is Patrick's data for DNR. You can see where we haven't drilled it.
St. Tammany residents expected state and local government to represent them. They certainly intended to make their feelings heard. They did what most Louisiana citizens had never done when challenging the oil and gas industry. They showed up. They fought back. They defended their community. And that's where the truth about Louisiana's petro-colonial status began to become clear. On June 17th in Baton Rouge, a few dozen St. Tammany residents showed up at a joint U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Louisiana Department of Natural Resources hearing on the wetlands permit Helis will need to drill. The spokesperson for Louisiana DNR told reporters afterwards that it was, quote, very unusual for any public participation in such a hearing. St. Tammany Parish residents had just intruded on the cozy relationship that exists between the oil and gas industry and the Department of Natural Resources, the state government entity that is supposed to regulate the industry. It's more than just cozy, it's corrupt. For years in Louisiana, the oil and gas industry has had veto power over the appointment of secretaries of the Department of Natural Resources in a tacit agreement with governors regardless of their political party. Representatives of DNR and the Office of Conservation, which is part of the department, are fixtures at the annual meetings of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, the industry lobbying group that is dominated by oil and gas drilling and service companies. That familiarity has bred consent, as the Department of Natural Resources has become a clear example of regulatory capture. The department cannot identify a single drilling permit that it has ever rejected for any reason. DNR and the Office of Conservation are captives of the oil and gas industry in Louisiana. The town of Abita Springs and the local government watchdog groups Concerned Citizens of St. Tammany jointly requested that DNR and the Office of Conservation hold a public hearing in St. Tammany Parish on the Helis drilling permit. This public meddling into the DNR oil and gas industry's circle of friends did not sit well with Helis, and it showed at the November 12th hearing on the drilling permit. The hearing was held at Lakeshore High School in Mandeville, just over a mile from the proposed Helis drilling site. About 700 people showed up for that meeting. Helis and their attorney decided to make the public pay for causing them a delay. The meeting began at 5 p.m. Helis and their consultants took most of the first 3 hours making their case for the permit to the DNR staff that ran the meeting. When attorneys for Tulane's environmental law clinic asked that Helis be allowed to submit the reports and presentations of their witnesses in writing, the Helis attorney cited a state rule that Helis was entitled and required to address all aspects of the permit request.
Rule 14 says the applicant shall first present the entire geological, engineering, and other bases of support. So, if you want to follow what's done in hearing, all of our experts testify before anybody is called.
I object to that. You said earlier this is
We know you did. I'm just saying, we're going to follow the hearing.
It was a public hearing version of going into the four-corner stall in basketball. By the time the attorneys for Tulane called their one witness, it was almost 9 p.m. before citizens of St. Tammany got a chance to speak. About 150 people had signed up to deliver up to 5 minutes of public comment. About half of the crowd had left by the time the public comment section opened. It was a Wednesday night. People had worked the next day. But the people of St. Tammany were determined to have their say. Late into the night and early into the next morning, they made their way to the microphone. Young and old, black and white, men and women. Some talked about how they had moved to St. Tammany to get away from the kind of pollution that Helis proposed to drag into the parish they now called home. Parents stood up for their children. Students spoke to protect their classmates in school. A real estate agent warned that fracking's negative impact on home values would undermine the parish's future. A civic activist objected because fracking would violate St. Tammany's zoning code that hundreds of citizens had invested thousands of hours to develop. A nurse warned that fracking would affect the parish's most vulnerable population, the young and the elderly. A retired business owner said he resented the fact that oil had so much influence and power in the state. There was a plea to protect the beauty of the parish. An attorney called for DNR to respect and defend the rights of citizens, not just oil companies. A community leader warned that he and others would fight to defend their homes against big oil's invasion. An attorney who made a good living defending oil and gas companies in court said the work and environmental accidents were inescapable parts of the industry, despite its best efforts. An attorney with a citizens group said that Helis's permit did not even meet the lax standards set by the Office of Conservation. A leader of the League of Women Voters said that the industry was being dishonest when it said that fracking was a safe and proven 60-year-old technology. An actor came home to stand up for the community he had grown up in. A parish councilman warned that fracking would expose St. Tammany's residents to an unprecedented level of danger. The mayor of Abita Springs said that fracking would not be limited to a single well, and that the cumulative effect of the hundreds of wells that might ultimately be drilled would do irreparable harm to the Southern Hills Aquifer, the sole source of the parish's drinking water. One resident called on Helis and DNR to leave St. Tammany alone. After midnight, near the end of the meeting, Cindy Brookings, a retired oil and gas industry worker who had survived cancer, stood up and asked the question that was on the back of the minds of many people who had attended the hearing. The central question was whether the Office of Conservation and DNR could bring themselves to act to protect the people of St. Tammany instead of the industry with which they had grown so closely intertwined. On December 19th, the Friday before Christmas, just before 5 p.m., the Office of Conservation gave its answer. Helis was awarded its drilling permit. The public hearing had been a sham. The 7+ hours of hearing, including 3.5 hours of citizen testimony in opposition to the permit, had had no impact. The permit was issued by James Welch, Louisiana's Commissioner of Conservation. Welch had not even bothered to attend the Mandeville hearing. In the end, the office remained loyal to its friends and patrons in the industry, reaffirming its captive status. In protest of the permit, a group of St. Tammany residents delivered lumps of coal to DNR and the Office of Conservation on Christmas Eve.
I had heard on good authority that there's been some naughty behavior here. The Department of Natural Resources and the Office of Conservation had issued a permit for drilling that lead to fracking in St. Tammany Parish, and everybody knows that's a no-no. That's a black mark on you. So I was bringing them some coal for Christmas here, but they won't let us in. They don't want to come down and see us. They don't want to come down and greet us. They've been naughty.
They have been very naughty.
Despite the permit, Helis cannot begin drilling operations anytime soon. The request for a wetlands permit has not been granted by the U.S. Corps of Engineers. Environmental Protection Agency has weighed in against that permit request because Helis has not demonstrated that it has explored other, less environmentally sensitive locations to carry out its drilling. In a state where the oil and gas industry has usually gotten its way, the delays were both unexpected and frustrating to the industry and its advocates. That frustration erupted as 2014 closed in a statement issued by Don Briggs, president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association. Citing the resistance in St. Tammany Parish as well as the court fights that the industry had lost in 2014, Briggs threw down the gauntlet, declaring that the industry would target those who had the temerity to refuse to give them what they wanted when they wanted it. Briggs' tantrum only highlighted the extent to which the Great St. Tammany Fracking Rebellion had come to symbolize the growing credibility problem the industry and its allies face even in Louisiana, a place where its power was once unquestioned and unchallenged. Maybe General Russell Honore's words in Abita Springs back in May were proving to be true.
The only person, the only people, the only thing that will save us is us. And this country was formed by citizens just like you, standing around and saying, you know, this isn't right. The king over in England, he telling us what to do, what we can be, how we can act, who we got to marry, what we can do. That's basically what this damn Texas company is doing. They're telling you, get out of the way. Trust us. You think that the state has equipment to go out there and do 24/7 monitoring what's going on? No. They will tell you it's self-reported, self-regulated. Who gave them that laws? Our legislature. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to change that in Louisiana. And it starts right here in St. Tammany Parish. Let the revolution start here. We will stop this. God bless America.
As 2014 ended, the price of oil was falling and the strength and determination of the St. Tammany Fracking Rebellion was rising. That combination promises to make 2015 a very interesting year on the North Shore and across Louisiana. The fight is on.